Let me tell you, if you want to write a beautiful book that really sticks out and moves people and makes for a great reading experience, believe me, it's easy to get stuck. That is a lot of pressure. But because we want to write wonderful books, one of the best things we can use is prompts. I like to turn the writing process into a game. So, one of my favorite games to get me moving forward on a book is using tarot cards. And so, in this video, I want to just make writing a little bit more playful. Whether you are near the end of your book, if you're just getting started and you ever feel stuck or blocks, going into the archetypes that we use in tarot, it can really get it moving again. And the other thing is, pressure is often the enemy of creativity. And so by just picking up a tarot card and using a prompt, it can take off that pressure. You're just doodling. You're just getting into the background of a character, of a plot idea. And then before you know it, you're moving into your story again. And so one of the things that makes tarot cards perfect for this is they deal with deep archetypes. So just like the hero's journey, we did a video on that a few weeks ago. The hero's journey and tarot cards, they get into some of the hidden parts of the human psyche that are essential for stories. And so I have 5 tarot cards that I love to use when it comes to developing a plot or developing a character. And so I'm going to go through a storyline using these 5 tarot cards. And then if you want to pick up your own deck, if you wanted to get into other additional tarot cards, go for it. It's so much fun. It takes you out of the grind of writing and gets you back into the play of writing. And so I want to show you with these 5 cards a little bit of how it works. So let's start with the Fool. The Fool is your protagonist at the beginning of the story. They're about to go on an adventure. They're about to jump off this little cliff and go into the unknown. And so the Fool often represents innocence, naivety, the new beginning of a new story. And so prompts that come along with the Fool are, who is your protagonist at the beginning of the story? We want to create dynamic characters. And so it's good to be able to differentiate your character from who they are at the beginning of the story compared to who are they going to be at the end. So ask those 2 questions. Who is your character at the beginning of the story? How is that different than your protagonist at the end of the story? If you're writing nonfiction, do the same thing for your reader. Your reader is picking up the book because they want to begin an adventure. There's something about their life that they want to change. So who is your reader at the beginning of the book, and what are they going to have? What skills, what strengths are they going to develop by the end of the book? So the Fool is a prompt to compare your person at the beginning to the end. 2 other prompt questions that are great for this are, what do they know and what do they not know? So if your protagonist, what do they know about the world when they get started that gets them into this situation? And then what information are they missing that is going to get us into our next card here, trouble, the devil. And so this is where the second card is, who is your antagonist and what are their powers? Nonfiction or fiction, you need to know this. What is your protagonist, your reader, up against, and what are the powers that are going to confound them? So this also goes for aspects within this person and outside of this person. So of course, you're going to develop an outside antagonist that creates challenges, but then there are also flaws, addictions, different things within the character themselves that they are going to have to shed or they are going to have to overcome. So that is our next. After we embark upon the adventure, we come up against our devil, our antagonist. Now, next, we've got the 9 of Swords. I love this card. Doesn't look like a very lovable card, but I love this card. This is the midpoint of a book. So when we have our Fool card going up against our Devil card, we are going to get to the midpoint, which in the hero's journey is often referred to as the abyss. Things get really bad in a story. Now, if you're doing nonfiction, these are the worst fears, the worst paranoia, fretting, worries that your reader or protagonist might have. And in the midpoint of a plot, the worse things get, the abyss is also a point of liberation. Because before we get to this, let's call this the rock bottom card, we are scared of hitting rock bottom. But what is the prompt for this card is what is the worst thing that can happen to our protagonist? And we want to make that happen to the protagonist in a story, because once we go through the worst of it, once we hit rock bottom, we learn who we are. We are empowered in a certain way because we no longer need to be afraid, because we're getting to the next prompt, which is the Seven of Wands. In the Seven of Wands, we see our protagonist right here overcoming these obstacles. The midpoint strips us to our core values. They're at the midpoint, at the Nine of Swords, we've lost so much. We've shed so much. We've had to transform into a person who knows their core values, because when you're at a point of rock bottom, all that's left are the core values. What is most important to you, and what are you willing to do in the Seven of Wands in order to get that? So that's the prompt of the Seven of Wands. The Nine of Swords is what's the worst possible thing that could happen. Then we've got the Seven of Wands. What are you gonna do in order to prove yourself? How are you gonna fight for your core values? What are your protagonist's core values? So that's the Seven of Wands. And if they get into it and they do a great job fighting, we get to a new abundant state. So this is, if you have a happy ending, you could also have a tragic ending, but this really is, when you think about who the person is, who the protagonist is at the beginning of the book compared to the end of the book, this is where we develop the character minus their fears, minus their addictions. So what is the protagonist's best possible outcome? And they will have sacrificed something in the process. So this card also represents, I'm sorry to say, this is the Nine of Coins. This is a card that represents personal growth, self-sufficiency, liberation from fear. And so this person, at the beginning of the book, their best possible outcome may have been a little bit more superficial. It may have been a little bit more naive. Now we have a beautifully developed, transformed character who makes it to the Nine of Coins. And so what is the best possible outcome, and how is that deeper? How is that different than our protagonist may have imagined at the beginning of the book? So these are some prompts to develop the material behind your fiction or nonfiction book. And once you've developed that material, I've got another free tool right down below. Once you develop more material, you can always be adjusting your outline. Your outline is your map of your book. And I've created this fun plot table that works for both fiction and nonfiction that you can download right below, right here, right below. It's free when you sign up, because every single Friday I put out new videos to help you with your book so that you take some time this weekend to move forward with your creativity. So much love, and I will see you next Friday. Ciao for now. Bye.